Easy now.
Easy now.
Easy now?
That's right. Well done. Yeah, that was good.
Did I get it right?
He's good.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Drive Talk podcast, powered by Michelin, and we are back again at our podcast HQ podium place in the podium paddock.
We are indeed.
In fact, this guy next to me, Joe's a little bit heated because he's just been on the Sims.
Yes.
Trying his hardest to get at the top of the leaderboard and
failing.
And failing miserably. Yeah. Yeah. So if you come to the podium paddock, they've got 3 motion simulation sims, and they are incredible. 200-degree wrap-round screens, full motion actuation, G harness, and very difficult to drive by the looks of it.
Yes, and very physical. I think if you're focused in there, it's quite a sweaty and hot environment. But anyway, let's get on to our special guest and very good mutual friend, Mr. Relini.
I don't know why you're saying special.
Well,
No, not special like that. Special as in it's a good special.
yeah, he's come all the way over from Dubai to be on this podcast. No, that's a lie. He's over here for a couple of weeks of holiday. But some of you might remember Relini, long-time viewers of my channel. I mean, he's been on the channel many, many years ago. And he's known both of us for a long time, been in the car scene, and almost exactly a year ago moved out to Dubai. So we thought this episode would talk to Relini about the difference in car markets between the Middle East, especially Dubai, and back here, and various other subjects. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good one. Looking forward to listening to what you say, because obviously you live out there now, Relini, and yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what goes on.
Dubai is a very similar but different market in the sense that, you know, when you go to a showroom in the UK, whether it's your BMW showroom or you go somewhere that concentrates purely on supercars and hypercars, over there, everything is a supercar, hypercar showroom. And you walk around and you become immune to the fact we were at Goodwood. And you were like, oh, wow, look at that. That's a 1 of 4. Look at that. It's a 1 of 5. It's 1 of 100. And you go, yeah, but one of them in the showroom.
And you know, even lying.
What's that road? There's all the big showrooms.
Sheikh Zayed Road.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was talking to Pat, and it's the new, they're looking at the Pagani stand, and they've got the Huayra. Like, yeah, we've got a Huayra in the showroom. Oh, it's 1 of 100. It's just casually there.
And it's not like, it's been a couple of years since I've been to Dubai, but I had the day off and I went and just walked down there. And I thought, there'll be 1 or 2 supercar showrooms down there. There's like 10.
Yeah, there's way more now. And you made the error of walking.
And it was hot too. And you walk into one and you're like, oh wow. I mean, it's like Holy Trinity. The second you walk into the first one, you're like, wow, okay. And yeah, you're right. It is a bizarre place.
And every showroom gets better, and they all outdo each other in some way, shape, or form. And it's unbelievable. The money as well.
So there's a couple of things we really want to talk about on this podcast, because I think first up, it'd be really great to get as someone who's been in the car trade selling cars both here in the UK and now in the Middle East, just have a chat about where we think the car market's going. We've got lots of changes happening within the next few years, a move from internal combustion engines to pure electric. Whether that's going to happen on the time frames that everyone says it is a debate we can have on this podcast. We've also had this massive inflation in car pricing in recent years, and cars holding their money, in some cases growing even more money. There's the change in interest rates, which is making a huge difference on how people buy cars. So there's loads to talk about and unpack in the UK. And then I'd love to find out about in Dubai, just the complete craziness and madness of the kind of cars that you sell on a daily basis.
Well, your bread and butter is something like a G63 or a Cullinan, because they are the most, or even a Urus, they are the most common car you will look on Sheikh Zayed Road, for example, and you just see them go past one after another. A lot of them are rentals, don't get me wrong, because you'll have expats on holiday in Dubai and they go, I want to experience that lifestyle, and they will rent for, let's say, roughly £500 per day, a Urus, and you then get to feel like you are somebody driving a very expensive car around the glitz and the glamour that is Dubai.
That's mad.
And that's then you're selling those vehicles on a daily basis alongside your super hyper, very rare SP2 Monza. We had a Chiron in the showroom. And again in Dubai, I don't think I've ever seen that many Chirons in one small area.
It's amazing. It's almost like a lot of them end up out there. I know a lot of collector cars. You had some really special old school BMWs in there.
Yeah.
That weren't necessarily registered initially in out there. Well, in fact, it was probably before most of Dubai was built. Some of the older ones, or the modern Dubai that we know.
Absolutely. And this is the thing with the Gulf in general. Many cars that are out there are all imports.
Yeah.
So you'll see the likes of a Japanese, European, and the cars that we had predominantly selling the last few months have been Japanese import. E30 M3. Imran from Evolve came over.
Yeah.
He made a beeline for that car. He was like, I know it's here. I want to see it.
Wow. So yeah.
And yeah, with 24,000 kilometers.
Wow.
The Sport Evo 3 is almost unheard of, and it's for you and especially Joe with being Mr. BMW, it's like that is a rare car.
Yeah.
And with that mileage and its condition, it's unbelievable.
Can we rewind a little bit actually before we sort of talk about Dubai as well and what's going on out there now? Just talk about your past and what you did over here for most of your adult life. You're an adult, aren't you now? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Age-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we not get on the age thing, please?
Oh, we're not. I wasn't. I was hinting at something else there.
How old are you? You probably. I could be your dad, probably.
Yeah, 100%.
31.
Yeah, I could be. Yeah.
Wait a second. There's a similar. No, you're not. No, but you worked in. You worked. Well, you tell us.
Oh well. Essentially, my history is BMW. For many years, in total, just over 7 years, and in between there, 2 years working at Tesla.
Ow. Oh, my ears just hurt then.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're all right, Joe. Can someone get a medic?
You might have to
call the ambulance.
Pat, you might have to bleep that section out. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're allowed to talk about Teslas.
Do you have salespeople? I thought they had a website.
Well, they did, and most of it then moved to a website. It's how they changed their structure of sales. They did the whole Apple thing. Everything's online. They still have a lot of the stores, but yeah, there's different structure of how they sell cars.
And so the BMW side, obviously you've got you're a petrol head at heart, aren't you? I mean, well, petrol head, electric head, whatever we want to call it these days. But you still a lot of track days with us. You loved your car. You had a beautiful sunset orange M2 comp.
Yep.
And yeah, you enjoyed that. You didn't just work in the industry. You were actually a petrol head that worked in the industry, which is rare these days, I think, especially amongst cars sales people. There's very few petrol heads or people that are actually into their cars. A lot of them tend to be salesmen or women, and that's it, not car salesmen or women. And I think there's a big difference there. I think that's why someone like Tony does so well, and I'm sure many people that you know, Ped, in various other dealerships, that they know what they're talking about. They're passionate about what they're selling. And I think that's what obviously you were as well, Relini, back in the day with BMW, with the product. And sometimes I think, especially in your case, sometimes it didn't even pay to be that passionate and love what you're selling, because sometimes it's just a numbers game. And that doesn't always get recognised and appreciated.
Well, that's how we met, really, with Alpina.
Yes.
I know the Alpina thing's very tainted now, but when we first met, I knew of you. I had an M235i at the time, back in 2014, and I brought down one of the cars, an Alpina press car, for you to drive.
That's right.
And yeah, then from there you get talking, and I'm moving forwards from there. I had my M2, we did track days, and then somewhere in all of that, you meet other people as Ped at places like Goodwood.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you recognise them and you see them somewhere else and in other locations. It's like, oh, hi. And then before you know it, that's how your friendship group essentially builds.
Yeah.
And yeah, with being a car enthusiast at heart, despite having worked in the industry in automotive, sometimes that does get the better of you, and sometimes it then becomes more of a, well, let me consult you instead of sell to you.
Yeah.
Because you see these people that are also enthusiasts, so you become less of a salesperson to that individual.
Yep.
And then again, that's then how another friendship grows.
Yeah.
Because people then learn to trust you. And as a salesperson, there is still that stigma that they're untrustworthy. They're just there to get a few quid in the back pocket and
kick you out the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as when I entered the trade, it's over 10 years ago now. It was I was a young person, inexperienced, and in my head I was like, I don't want that stigma attached to me.
Yeah.
And it was just then trying to be that friendly face of walking the dealership at the time, and it was just try and be normal people and just give them the advice. Don't force the sale, but at the same time you're still a salesperson, so
yeah, you
have that target above you.
You know what, you've actually accidentally just brought up a subject that I think I should talk about now on the podcast, because it's something that I've not talked about. It's not too much of a long story, so don't worry, Bed.
Thank goodness for that. Yeah.
But it's actually an interesting subject, at least in my head. And I think something I get asked about a lot in the last 5 or 6 years, maybe that long, is why do I not review Alpinas? Why have I done nothing more with Alpina? What happened there? Because I had a very close relationship with especially when you were working for them in the UK, Relini. And the relationship went a little bit sour, and unfortunately most of it was down to the fact that it's a small, they don't sell that many cars over here, so they don't have massive budgets. They're also controlled by I won't mention the franchise group, but they are very much controlled by them. The press cars literally overnight, because of a small incident, I understand, suddenly became unavailable to a point. But if I wanted to borrow one, then I had to make sure it was insured, etc. myself.
Wow.
And that at the time, I remember that hit me quite hard for a number of reasons. Number one is, if you're borrowing a press car, especially now where we don't make much on YouTube at all with these videos unless they go really well, the last thing you want is extra costs on top, and you do end up pumping a bit more fuel in there, and obviously the cost of your own time and filming and stuff. But if you then got to sort out proper insurance for a press car that you're promoting, basically, because with an Alpina, let's face it, I've ever since then I've just said, look, it's going to be good, isn't it? And they are all good. But if you're promoting a car for someone and having to pay for the expenses of promoting that car on your own platform in your own time, that didn't sit right with me. And as soon as that happened, I was just like, I'm out until that changes. And I don't know if it ever did change. And I'm not bad-mouthing Alpina, because I think, like I said, they make fantastic cars. Alpina in Germany, I was very fortunate to have a one-on-one interview with Andreas Bovensieben, who is still the CEO, which was the most amazing, insightful.
That was a cool video.
It was,
yeah.
And I think it's actually probably one of the coolest, if not the coolest opportunity I've ever had, unexpected in a way as well, because it was only meant to be 10 minutes in an office, turned into 2 hours in a car on the Autobahn. And so I absolutely love the brand, but unfortunately that kind of tarnished the situation a little bit. And that's kind of why I haven't, and people very kindly offer me a lot of Alpinas, their own cars. But at the same token, it's like, yeah, so I'm going to take your B3 Touring. I'm going to say it's the best car in the world. And what's going to happen? People are going to go out, people are going to go out and buy off this retailer that won't even insure the car for me to review. So It never sat right with me from that point onwards. And you know, I know things have probably moved on and changed since then. And I'm not going to put Relini into that awkward situation, because obviously he worked for them. But I just wanted to talk about that, because it's something that I do get asked on a weekly basis. Why don't you review Alpinas? And that's why. But I can tell you, sitting here on the sofa, they're probably all very, very good. But anyway, moving on swiftly. That's a bit of an insight. That anyway,
going back to that, the buying thing. From when I bought my Mini, I had a really young guy, sales guy, was the sales contact in the showroom, and transpired he'd been actually an engineer that worked in the workshop, and he'd had an accident and he couldn't work overhead. He had a problem with his shoulder. So they said, well, we'll try you out on sales. And they gave him like a little apprenticeship as a salesman. And he was brilliant because he knew everything about the car. So being the car guy, I was asking all these questions. He knew everything, and he was brilliant. And we went out for a test drive, and I came back, went to having that car. And they said, I'm only learning, so I'm going to have to hand you over to my sales manager and she'll complete the deal. And she came down, and I was buying it cash. And the first thing she said was, why are you buying the car cash? I went, because I want to. I don't want finance. the whole point of me buying this car, I don't want finance.
Oh, not like cash.
No. I didn't want finance. I had the money in the bank.
Card.
I just wanted to pay for it in a lump sum, along with the trade-in. And she said, I can make your money work better for you with a finance quote. And I'm like, that's fine, but I don't want one, thanks. Anyway, she went away, came back with 2 finance quotes anyway, and then tried to sell me, ceramic coating and wheel insurance. And I said, listen, give me back to the young lad there to complete the sale, or I'm walking out the showroom.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in, you're not listening to what I'm saying. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you is to what extent I don't want to put you in an awkward situation, but you've got other products as well as the car that you will financially benefit from selling. There's a kind of sometimes a perception, and maybe it's a correct one, that actually the salesperson, all they're really interested in is selling you gap insurance and a coating and alloy wheel cover and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes I understand why those products are there, and even finance. I'm sure you get probably a kickback on the finance, but sometimes it clouds that purchasing process. And I've always wanted to know from someone who is in that position, does that sometimes, do you think, I could actually make an extra buck here if I sell them that, but I'm not going to because this guy doesn't want it?
Well, the short answer is it's your job. So your job is to sell the vehicle, the product, and the other products that come alongside that. And again, they have, in different dealerships, they have different personnel. So you'll have a business manager, for example, who will go out to offer the finance. Their job is to offer that to you, not to force it upon you. They should never. And I had fantastic business managers work with me, because they would go and go, look, I know you want to buy cash. Here's 2 options. Don't have to say yes, but we have to offer it to you. Are you happy with the purchase of your brand new car? And it would be so casual, and some people would just need to turn around and go, oh yeah, I'm just going to buy cash. Fantastic. Enjoy your car. Here is other products that we offer. You can say yes now, you can say yes in a week, and you can say no, and we won't mention it again. And they'll give you the information for your viewing, for you to understand. Some people do try and force that upon you, which is wrong in a sense, but again, in their eyes, that's their job. They have to do their job because that is how you earn your money.
So you're almost obliged, aren't you? I think, from my understanding.
Oh, you got the KPIs, right? You got to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will have your targets. So your targets will be broken down into cars, profit, finance, and then you'll have your products.
And I guess there's a lot of people who, if you're a car guy, you kind of know the game the dealers play, right? You know the fat that's in the car that you're trading in, that you're buying. You know where the deal can be done. But lots of people are going to a car showroom and they've got no clue what, and they're just like basically sitting ducks for people who are unscrupulous.
This is where hopefully people have contacts now, where you can turn around to your friend, and I've had a lot of my friends say the same to me. Bro, I'm buying a car, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Do you think this is a good deal? And I'll look it over very quickly. Sometimes I'll spend a little bit longer than I should. And I'll go, yeah, that looks good to me. Maybe try and get a discount on the car because it doesn't look like there is one. And they'll go, oh, thanks for spotting that out. Or they'll have something rolled in there on the quotation that you don't know about. You go, you've got tyre insurance. Did you know about that? No, it's £700. What? And so on like that. So it is just reading it over, but then taking the information on board. But unfortunately, that's part and parcel of your job to sell those products, and that is how you will earn a good sum of money as a salesperson.
Because I suppose a lot of it, let's just broadly speak, in car salespeople, a lot of it is on commission, right?
Correct.
So you've got a base salary which is not massively amazing, but then your incentive is to sell, which is, again, is understandable. I think if I had a dealership, if you had one, it would be a similar thing, wouldn't it? You know, a decent sales team that isn't commission driven. No, it's a simple. I mean, is that how your carpet sales go as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thanks.
Look, Patrick had such a serious face, and that just changed it. Anyway, sorry.
It's the same in the UAE. So working over there in the Gulf in Dubai, most people, funnily enough, will walk in the showroom, and Joe says about, well, it's not just no, they will walk in with physical cash, notes.
Wow.
And you'll sell a car, let's say it's a million dirham, which is roughly £220,000. And they go, oh yeah, no, I'll pay cash. I'm like, do you want the bank details? No, I have money.
And that's okay out there.
That's okay. Yeah, they walk in with your bag, your rucksack. Oh, we'll need to go upstairs to the accountant, and they'll count all of that for you.
Wow.
And it's just normal. They don't break a sweat. They don't stumble their words. They're just like, no problem, we'll go upstairs. There are documentations to fill out to ensure that they are a legit person.
Yeah.
That money hasn't come from incorrect sources. But yeah, they will walk in and they'll happily pay cash for something.
Now, question, because I think this used to be the case. I don't know whether it still is the case in Dubai, because I've got friends that live out there. You can pay your monthly installments with post-dated checks.
Yes.
Do you still do that?
Yeah, because it's illegal out there to write a check without the correct funds.
Because if a check bounces, it's like 3 years in prison in Dubai, isn't it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's not something you want to do lightly, trust me.
So I had a mate working out there, and the company that he was working for basically had problems, got bought out. The company that bought it out went pop, and he had all these post-dated checks for his car finance, post-dated checks for his rent, and he's like watching the amount of money in his bank account go down and down and down. His wife's in complete denial, and he's like, right, I've got till probably 6 weeks' time, and then a check's going to bounce, and then that's me.
Wow.
And then he managed to get his passport back from his company, because the company keeps the passport.
Yep.
Got his passport back, and just got a one-way flight home and left everything.
Yeah.
That's a common, and that happened a lot when was the crisis? 2008?
Yeah, 2008.
Because there's that famous Enzo.
Yeah.
And I recently saw that car finally being finished, and I think it's maybe being sold now or very soon. I'll show you the photograph afterwards. And I don't actually have that photograph, if anyone asks. But
you've just told millions of people on the podcast.
Millions?
Yeah. You know, the numbers are going really well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. James, if you're watching.
I'm a salesperson.
Millions.
I'm a salesperson. I'm Relini's teaching me.
100 million people.
Yeah.
But that was a very common occurrence in 2008 when the banking crisis happened. People would park it up, leave the key probably on the car, and vanish.
Wow.
With a lot of debt in their name. But that specific car was in the desert for, I think, quite a long period of time.
Yeah.
Looks a lot better now than it did then.
I bet it did, yeah. But yeah. Wowzers. Okay, so where should we go now? Should we have a chat about the future of the UK?
Yeah. Well, I think talking about cars that have been dumped in the desert, there is kind of some kind of crossover there, isn't there?
You're thinking China now, then?
Well, China and in the UK, I think. I think we should talk about the state of the current car industry.
Should I tee this up by saying sales were amazing last year?
Oh, yes. Sales were amazing last year. It's all... I mean, we had a little discussion. We just had lunch together, had a little talk about it then. And I think what you see on paper, what you're told about sales figures, what you're told about anything in this day and age, unfortunately, is not always true. And I think a lot of the sales figures that we're told, I'm not necessarily targeting EVs, but I am. They're
for the first time ever.
For the first time ever.
I heard you're a big fan of EVs.
Well, listen, I don't. People think I really dislike them. I just don't think as positively about them as maybe some others. But
I turned up in an EV today.
You did, and yours is actually very nice.
An
EV6.
It's a Kia EV6 GT.
Yes, that is a good looking car.
577 horsepower.
Wow.
It's on PS4s as well. Just saying.
Wow. Yeah, it is, and so is mine. M3 Touring. What would you rather have? Comment below. EV6 or M3 Touring?
Carry on, Jack. Carry on.
Anyway, these sales figures. So I know a lot of people. We know a lot of people within the car industry. I know a lot of people at the brands themselves and manufacturers themselves, and I know a lot of people at the sales men and women level. And digging around, you start to realise that, especially last year, a lot of cars were registered just for the sake of being registered. So firstly, these cars get thrown to dealerships. So manufacturers will throw various dealerships a load of cars that they don't necessarily want. And then they're instructed at the end of the year to register these cars that they don't necessarily want to get the numbers up. And that's just at dealership level. That's happening everywhere throughout most of Europe. In China, we've just seen in the news, we've seen some various things on social media of all these thousands of cars parked up in fields or whatever. And So really, we're not being lied to because the numbers are real. So these cars have been registered, but not registered in an organic way. Not registered because EV Pete's gone in and purchased one. They've been registered just to make the numbers look better. And I think this, and then the knock-on effect of that is, once again, listening to people on the inside. This is not conspiracy theory. This is not me making things up. This is stuff that I've heard from a lot of people within the industry. Is now the used market is saturated with barely used EVs that have just been registered. They might say 200 miles or 500 miles, but you'll find most of them have got 4 or 5 miles. They've just been registered on the forecourt. And what that does is then push the price of the used cars down and then collapse the new car market. And Patrick and I were looking the other day, for example, if you go on to Auto Trader and you look at something like an Audi e-tron, which is a lovely car. I think they started making them at the end of 2019 maybe was the early ones, but we looked at like 2020 ones with reasonable miles on them. You can pick them up for high 20s. And, that was a 65 grand car 3 years ago. And as we know, a 65 grand, how much was your Boxer GTS when it was new 3 years ago?
65.
Okay, well, this is perfect. And what's it worth now?
62.
There we go. And that's, to be fair, okay, that's a bit of an extreme example because it's a Porsche and it's got half a GT badge on it. But no, okay, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
that off people,
that's one end of the scale, the other end of the scale. But pretty much anything that was 65 grand, the very lowest examples are probably going to be 45 grand. They're not going to be 26 grand like an e-tron is. And the reason that is because there's hundreds of them on there. Yeah. Nobody wants them, or very few people want them. And then you add into the fact that the interest rates have gone up. So as we all know, as you touched upon, finance rates are just through the roof. Discounts are very minimal now on new cars. New car pricing has also gone up through the roof. Government incentives have pretty much dropped away. We're being told that car tax is coming in on EVs next year. We're also being told that the congestion charge is either happening 24 or 25, and there's rumours around that it's going to be based upon weight of the vehicle, which is funny in a way because obviously EVs aren't light. So it's very difficult and hard to see where this is all going because in terms of price, it's only going one way. And in terms of depreciation, it's also only going the other way. And so, I don't know. I talked enough. Sorry.
No, I think we're in for a bit of a shock, actually, because I think you touched on one of the things there is, especially around hybrids and battery electric, I think lots of people went into those because of salary sacrifice schemes, tax incentives, and had the car and almost a lot, let's get this right. So a lot of people, I've run an EV for a year as a long-term, brilliant things.
Yep.
Under most journey profiles, they're phenomenal things. They, longer journeys, you've got some, range anxiety with public charging and those types of issues. But there will be people that ran those and almost put up with the inconveniences of running an EV because the tax incentives were so good. Those tax incentives, if they now get removed, so you have to pay road tax, you have to pay, more for the car, the salary sacrifice schemes aren't there.
Electricity.
Maybe electricity, cheap rate tariffs aren't there. Suddenly the incentives aren't as good and you don't put up with the issues anymore and you go back to buying a piston car.
Yep.
And I know quite a few people have done that. And I just think there's almost a kind of leveling of the market. I don't know whether now you're out in selling supercars in the desert, but did you see that a year ago when you were...
I started with obviously a BMW. BMW launched I in 2013 and I purchased my first i3, one of many that I had in 2016. And at the time, it was almost nothing to charge, no road tax, and it was just a car that I could just almost run for free.
And back then, an i3 was like buying something out of Star Wars, right? Yeah. It was just so futuristic.
They still are. I think they've always been ahead of their time.
Yeah, brilliant.
And people never really understood the quirkiness of that vehicle. And now, electricity... I've been away for a year, so I'm kind of a little bit out of the loop, but I understand that electricity now is so much more expensive. you can go and charge your electric car at a public charge point, and it will cost you more than fueling a petrol car.
If you haven't got a deal, I mean, you could be paying as much as 75 pence per kilowatt hour.
It's crazy.
And at the same time, fuel prices are coming out. I mean, we drove here, a couple of hours ago. We went past an Esso, and it was 132.9 for petrol. So that's fuel prices have come. Oh yes, yeah, thanks. Yeah, still expensive compared to the Middle East. But I mean, we rewind a year or 18 months. They give
you fuel in the Middle East, don't they?
No, in Saudi Arabia, I think they do if you work for Aramco. But everybody else, no.
Yeah, that's in your contract. You have to earn a certain amount of fuel. But it's a difficult landscape, and I mean, you're extremely honest, open, and I think you're, out of everyone that I watch on the interweb, I think you're the best person at being very transparent with everything and showing the pros and the cons. Whereas, yes, I maybe said a lot of cons and not as many pros, but I'm the first person to put my hand up when we're talking about EVs to say that there's a time and a place for them. And I wish that rather than this whole, right, we're 2030, we're going to do this, I wish they'd just gone, no, let's focus on the big cities. Let's focus on London and Munich and Paris and Manchester, and let's try and electrify them, put an infrastructure in first, then electrify them with smaller electric cars, and then go from there, see how it works. And that way we're bringing that ground level CO2 down, because no matter, even if they're getting charged by electricity that comes from a coal station, that coal station's out in the middle of nowhere. So the cities are reducing, which is important. And let's experiment a bit with that and then work our way. But I think just the whole, let's do this, when you go to various countries around the world, some are ahead of us, miles ahead, like places like Norway and, a lot of the Scandi countries I hear are so far ahead of us in terms of that. But obviously they're smaller populations and smaller countries. But others are just nowhere near it. Like I've been to the States a few times this year. As soon as you get out of a big city, there's just nothing. Or places like Brazil, for instance, that's never going to be realistic in the next 5 or 6 years.
I was on a trip the other week with an Aussie, and we were talking EVs, and he's like, the distances we've got out in Australia are just too big.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got that EV just as an example. So I've got my EV6 GT, great car.
Yep.
Tomorrow I'm driving to Wales to see Moggy at Electric Classic Cars. Now, if I was in a petrol or diesel car, I wouldn't even think about it. But what I'm going to have to do tonight is plan the journey,
right?
Because I'm staying somewhere tomorrow night where I can't charge overnight. I'm staying with a friend.
Yep.
So I know I'm going to have to charge at some point. So the difference is, it's a planning thing, right? So I'll look at my route. I'll try and find a rapid charger somewhere en route. Work out my charge stops. I'm going to be filming on Thursday with Moggy, and we're going to do some driving of the cars, and at the end of the day the battery's bound to be depleted because we're going to be driving quickly, and you've got to I've then got to drive 200 miles home, so I know I'm going to have to get a charge stop home. So it's a completely different a way of approaching things, and I think there are many people out there that are happy with that way of that. You've got to change your approach to car ownership and living with a car.
Yep.
And if you're happy with doing that and you've got the patience to do that, absolutely fine. If you've not, then it's a bit more challenging. But we were with Porsche over Festival of Speed, and they've got this massive program around sustainable fuels. All of their cars at Festival of Speed were running on sustainable fuels, and it's just pump gas, right? You just stick it in the back, and it's from an environmental impact, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And you don't need to change the cars. Most cars don't need any changes whatsoever. The problem with that is scale. You look at, again, Festival of Speed, there was a number of hydrogen cars running up the hill, either fuel cell or hydrogen combustion.
Yep.
Amazing things. There's a brilliant interview with Rowan Atkinson. He drove the little GR Yaris, hydrogen GR Yaris up the hill. Amazing things. So there's all these other things that are able to power cars along.
Yep.
And my challenge with it is I just don't think it's enough of a mix. We've the easy solution is to say, put everybody in an electric car and get rid of piston cars.
The small issue with that, and I mean it's not really a small issue, it's the biggest issue, is education. People forever have been told to get in their internal combustion engine vehicle, drive to an fuel station, spend 3 minutes, and then £100 later, circa, you drive away. People now don't understand the fact of where I can charge, how long it takes, the different output of power, how long the battery lasts, and all of these questions. And there are a couple of companies out there that will educate you, but like with hydrogen, I couldn't tell you a thing. I don't know, because I've never educated myself on it.
So so firstly, for most EV owners, for most journeys, if you've got a charger at home, you never have to go to a fuel station. You wake up in the morning, you've got a full battery, and off you go. Hydrogen, so a hydrogen fuel cell, what you're doing is basically creating electricity on the go. So you've got a compressed hydrogen tank on the car. So you fill that with hydrogen from a hydrogen fuel station. There's only 10 of those in the UK.
But that's a very small number.
It is. I drove a Toyota Mirai that can do 400 miles on a tank of hydrogen, and it takes 3 minutes to fill up.
So basically the same as what we're used to, essentially. Yeah.
The problem is either distributing or creating hydrogen. So you can crack hydrogen at a fuel station, so you don't have to distribute it anywhere. It's quite energy intensive to make, but it's a scale thing.
Yeah.
For me, I think hydrogen's definitely you look at what JCB are doing on the large plant machinery and stuff. They've basically got, so then you can also use hydrogen in combustion engines.
Okay.
So they work in a similar way to a petrol or diesel engine. You've got a piston going up and down and a bang at the top.
Yep.
And they work in a similar way to that. And that's the route that JCB are going with their heavy plant machinery, is they've got hydrogen combustion. Again, Harry's done some mega stuff on there with JCB. And again, once you create it, but for things like buses, haulage vehicles, plant machinery, it's just an obvious part of the mix.
Where electric just isn't.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk makes a big thing about the whole Cybertruck thing, but I'm sure in certain circumstances, but again, it's just, I've towed with an electric car and it wasn't good.
No,
actually, let me rephrase that. It was an electric vehicle is a brilliant towing vehicle because they've got
that torque,
got instant torque, loads and loads of it, which is just what you want for towing. The challenge is drag and aerodynamics and power, sort of drainage on the whole drivetrain thing. But it needs to be a mix. And I think what we might see, we've seen it in Germany, haven't we, where the German authorities are being lobbied by some of the car manufacturers, Porsche leading the way, to try and push that 2030 deadline back a little bit, give a bit more headroom.
It was originally 2040, was it not?
Well, yeah, and then somebody for some election probably went, I know, let's make it 2030.
Move it forward.
Yeah, we'll get all the Just Stop Oil protesters voting for us.
Yeah.
So I can see that deadline moving. I can see more of a mix. But I just think that there's an element of, I try and keep an open mind. Like Joe says, I can see the strengths and benefits of EV. I've had one on the garage or on the forecourt outside the house for the last year, and they're brilliant things. But when it goes wrong with an EV, in terms of you go on a journey and you can't find somewhere to charge, it goes wrong really badly.
Do you know what happens? A diesel truck picks you up.
Well, all AA and Relay, all these kind of roadside assistants, they'll all have battery packs now that will give enough charge into the battery or into the car just to get you to the nearest charge point. But then you can't tow an EV.
No,
so you can't put like a spectacle on the front and tow it. So that normally has to be flat-bedded away.
Yeah, let's just say a diesel truck will just take you to the diesel charge.
Which is a bit of a problem. But yeah, I think I just think there needs to be a much better conversation at a leadership level, so political leadership level, with people who actually know what they're talking about. And I just don't get that's the sense at all. I think you need to gather together industry experts, and there's no way.
Real experts, well, no, I'm saying in politics, like as in real experts. Yeah, a lot of them are labelled up as experts, and they're all getting backhanders.
Yeah, they're not.
And
we're not sitting there saying I'm an expert either. All we get is we are in a fortunate position where we get to meet and talk to, people within the industry. So, I spent a day with Toyota when I drove the Mirai, and it was fascinating talking to them about hydrogen for them as a brand. And I know BMW are in a big way looking at that now as well. They had a hydrogen vehicle at Festival Speed.
They did.
JCB are doing so, and I just think we just need a better conversation, because I'm not convinced electric is the way to go. And we haven't even touched on the whole, how you make batteries. And people always say, we're in our infancy, charging infrastructure gets better, battery technology improves, I'm sure it will. But it's
well, it has to. If EVs are the future, I think they're a stopgap. Personally, something, whether it is hydrogen or something else, comes along and that's better for the environment and everything else.
I mean, how many cars are there in the road in the UK? I don't know the question off the top of my head, but imagine all of them as electric. But then you go somewhere like, I don't know, India.
Yeah.
Or most of continental Africa.
Or Brazil, Brazil. Yeah.
How many cars are on the road there, and what's the likelihood they're going to go to be electric? Well, I'll tell you now.
Even look in the Gulf, because they make the oil. That's where your oil comes from.
Yeah.
And they want to reduce the amount of oil that they're producing, don't they? But at the same time, because your fuel is so cheap, why would you go and buy an electric car?
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even have to go to the fuel station. Some guy in a truck drives to wherever my car is parked and fuels my car on the side of the road.
Stop it.
While I'm at work. I've lived out there for a year. I've never been to a fuel station since I found this out. I go on an app, he comes to me within an hour.
But you must pay a big premium for that.
It's exactly the same price. And that's the thing out there. Every fuel station is exactly the same price. So you don't go to Shell, BP and all the other service stations to go, that one's 5p cheaper than that one, but if I have to drive the extra 2 miles, nope, just go to the first one or get them to come to you.
I got a mate moved out. It might be the same for you. A mate moved out there a few years ago when he got to his kind of apartment that he was renting. He bought a really nice car, and then there was a guy came along and said, "Would you like me to clean your car for you?" And he's like, "Oh, how much does that cost?" And I can't remember how much it was, but it was like £10 or something, right?
It's way cheaper than that.
Yeah. So, but then he said, "Oh yeah, I'll do that. It's fine." What he didn't realise that's £10. This guy cleans his car every day.
Yeah.
Oh. He wakes up every morning, the car's been cleaned. Like the first week he was there, he said, "Hold on a minute, you've washed my car every day. You'll literally wash the paint off." He went, "Well, yeah, you paid me to clean your car." He went, "Yeah, I thought you were going to clean it like once for £10, not every day."
Oh,
£10.
no way.
Yeah, some of the services that you get washing the car and so on, they are so cheap.
Yeah.
And everything out there is PPF. So you don't mind some guy coming along with a waterless wash and a dirty leather or microfiber and wiping it over because self-healing PPF, the car looks fantastic even when he's finished it.
Right, so this is a great segue. So we've kind of had our rant. Yeah, I'm sure we'll come back to that subject. If you want us to cover a particular subject, by the way, please put it in the comments or send us an email. And drivetalkpodcast@gmail.com, by the way, and we'll try and get to you. So let's talk about your move to Dubai. I guess the first question is, how did that happen? Was that something you wanted to do for a while, or did you just get a random email? How did you end up living in Dubai?
It was more of, I'm going on holiday.
Yeah.
I went once. This is sick.
See,
this place is amazing.
You can tell he's younger than us because he's just used the word sick and got away with it. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, man.
And then you go, I'm going to go again.
It's almost like us using easy now.
Yeah. That's really cringy. You know, if we use sick.
Yeah.
Sick. Oh, that's sick.
Easy now.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. Carry on.
You finished?
Yeah.
And yeah, so of course you look from the outside into Dubai, and there's very glitz and glamour, and it's all very smoke and facade. Is smoke and facade the right saying?
Smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors. Yeah. And once you look past that and you realise that the people that do live there and do work there earn a very good wage.
What's the tax rate there, mate?
It's 0.
Can you imagine?
And there is that is a massive advantage when you live there.
Do you think what not losing 40% of what you earn? That's a fairly big advantage.
Your national insurance and everything else. But,
yeah.
And this is the thing, and your healthcare, when you start speaking to people, everything is paid for. But the services, again, even as basic as the car wash, your dentist, your doctors, you pay for it, and most of it's done through your work. But the level of service is unbelievable. And when you start looking into it and you're there looking at the UK and everyone's starting to moan and a negative mindset, your money is worth less now than it was last year. And it then becomes harder to buy a car because the finance rates and so on and so forth. You go, well, what have I got to lose? And I can do my job out there the same as I did here, so I'm still in automotive. And you're respected higher because of your background of working in the UK with your qualifications and your training. So, speaking to a few people, and I was a little bit fed up of the UK with my job. I was like, well, I'm at that age where I kind of have nothing to lose, so why not?
Yeah.
And then, so I went on a few holidays and walked into the showroom that I was in and literally said to one of the guys in there, I was like, I love this place. I would love to get a job here. And he was like, oh, really? I says, yeah, I've got 10 years of experience. He's like, have you got your CV? Yeah, let me send it to you. And then his manager rang me the next day. And lo and behold, offered me the job. And that was pretty much my in for where I was working. I've moved to another showroom now.
Yeah.
And,
So when you're working like for BMW and Alpina, you kind of got this like, model lineup of cars. Now you're in exotics. It must be when a new car comes in, you're like, all right, I just need to Google that.
Yes, you spend some time looking at it's almost impossible to know every single car as well.
Unless you're Tim.
If
it's me, yeah.
He came to the showroom, this and this and this, and this is that car, and he looked at the Speedtail that we had. Oh, it's in, what was the name of the colour of the green? Oh, it's the only Speedtail in this colour. He would be the person to know that.
Did you know he just casually dropped in the Speedtail?
The Speed, yeah.
I've only ever seen one of them.
Oh, we've got two.
And what's that up for?
14 million dirhams, so £3.5 million.
No, wow.
That was stereo. That was a stereo. Wow.
Yeah.
14. Wow. Okay.
Brand new, never driven.
What's the most impressive in the? How long are you? Okay, so how long?
Talk us through some bangers. Yeah. Through some of the sheds that you've sold since you've been out there.
Some of the sheds. Well, I mean, they go as low as a GR Yaris.
Oh, wow.
Not really a shed. Very cool out there because they never had that car in that country.
Yeah.
So they were all imports. They love them.
I know so many supercar owners here in the UK that also have a GR Yaris.
I understand why.
I know a guy's got an Aston Martin GT8, and it's like a gunmetal grey with luminous green mirrors and wing caps, and he's got a GR Yaris in exactly the same
spec.
It looks wicked.
But again, out there in the UAE, if you ever go out there and drive, everybody understands the left-hand lane is the overtaking lane. Every other lane is like a free-for-all. So when you're in something small like a Yaris, or I have a JCW Mini, you can just dart in and out of the traffic. You're not supposed to.
But nobody, that's not like over here, you'd get obviously massively done for it because there is some lane discipline, but I suppose
lane discipline doesn't exist, Joe.
Doesn't exist.
It's non-existent, apart from on the outside lane where you overtake. But if you're
in a big black Land Cruiser and you're a local, people just get out of your way, right?
Well, you just flash and everyone will move over because that's the kind of give way symbol. Just flash your headlights, they move out the way.
I met a guy last time I was there. We were staying at a golf resort, and I was chatting to a guy at the bar, and he was an expat living out there. And the first week they got there, his wife was driving to the shops, and she got cut up by a black Land Cruiser. Right, so she stuck her hand out the window and gave the old, and 2 hours later there was a knock on the door, and 3 guys took her away, and he didn't see her for 2 weeks.
What?
Yeah, because it was one of the local, the really high up in the local family, and the only reason they let her off was because she'd only been in the country a couple of days and didn't know that's not what you do.
Oh my god!
You know when you drive in the UK and you get flashed on a camera and you're like, oh, I've just been caught speeding. You wait 2 weeks for the ticket to come through, don't you?
Yeah.
2 minutes, you'll get a text message on your phone.
Yeah.
You got caught speeding. This is your fine, and it just pops up.
Wow. And you just keep paying them. Right? There's
you can leave them. You can leave them for a year until you have to renew the registration on the car. So you can just rack up your fines, parking fines, speeding fines, and or you can just pay it off instantly and it's done with. But it's just and a speeding fine here is 3 points on your license. You get 12 points. You've lost your license. There, you have to be going over a certain speed to then get points. But you can get 25 points, I think it is. And normally, if you do over a certain, it's 6 points. So you can get quite a few.
So let's go speeding in Dubai.
Yeah. As long as you're doing under 200, you're fine. Kilometres.
So come on, let's find out some more cars. So you start with GR Yaris at your base level. What was the first really car that you sold you were like, wow?
Wow. I've done a couple of Rolls Royces.
Yeah.
They're not your normal. But again, out there, that's
like a commuter
They
car.
are, yeah. But it was a long wheelbase Ghost, and it was owned previously by the royal family. So it was a beautiful spec, blue exterior with the silver and like a cream interior.
Wow.
Spec to every option. And again, that's a common occurrence out there. Every car is fully optioned. You don't turn around and go, oh, it's not got that. It's just, yep, full option. And yeah, then you have your G-Wagons and then other cars, like a Monza SP2. That ended up in Switzerland, I think it was. But that got exported.
Wow.
So that was around 10.5 million dirhams, so £2 million, something like that.
Wow.
And again, that's extremely special. And it had the launch livery on it, the blue into the red, which is really nice.
Where did the dealers that are out there on the road we were talking about, where do they source their cars from? Are they?
So a lot
they must be tapped into some they really,
of course,
everybody who needs to know knows, right?
Yeah. You have again Dubai. It's a small place, and in automotive, if you know one person, they probably know that person who knows that person. You go, well, I need this car. Oh, I know so and so who has that. Great. Does he want to sell it? And then the conversation starts. You get introduced, and before you know it, you get introduced to so and so, who then expands your network. And then throughout the winter months, let's say November to March, something like that.
When it's like, what, 35, 40
Yeah,
degrees?
it's cooler.
Yeah.
In the evening, it can be 25, 30 degrees. And that's a lot cooler than what it is now in the middle of the day. It's 50 degrees. But they have shows and events most days. You can guarantee Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there is an event. And again, in Ramadan, you have a drive most days. And you'll have expats and locals. One day, he'll come out in his Series 1 Land Rover. The next day, he'll be in his 918. The next day, he'll be in a Fiat 500. And they have so many cars. And you'll see the same guy driving a different car every single drive, which is most days. And you'll just go up to him and talk to him. And like, oh, so what do you do? And they'll talk to you. You'll exchange WhatsApp numbers. And then if you want to sell something, do you want to buy something? And then that's how you build your network. And it's fascinating because, you know, if you come here and you speak to, let's say, someone at the Festival of Speed who gets out of a Huayra, you say, oh, what do you do? And they're a little bit standoffish. And they almost don't want to tell you this information, and you get their telephone number. Out there, yeah, no problem. They'll tell you the whole life story. Because it's a safe environment.
Yeah.
They know that nothing will happen, and that actually you never know who you might meet to expand your network. They may need you. They want to buy a car. You are the person that they can come to if you build a good friendship to purchase their vehicle. So that's the best thing. It's such a fantastic country.
And
region.
The dealerships, so I would hate to try and work out what the cost of all the stock in a dealership is. Are those cars, are they mainly on sale or return, or are they owned by the dealership? Because if
every dealership is different.
Yeah.
Most, every dealership. The previous one I was at, 95% of them were owned by the dealership.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, the showroom owned all those cars. You had one or two that weren't owned by them, but you'll have, let's say, in the region of £100 million worth of cars at least, because you had the showroom floor and downstairs.
How? And Relini, so if you got up on a Sunday morning and you're like, I want to go out for a drive
On Jebel Jais,
Yeah,
that can't be that far away from you.
it's about an hour drive.
Right, okay.
Oh, is that?
It's the tallest mountain in the.
That's like the coolest road ever.
Okay, but is it good in real life, and is it these days really populated and busy?
I've seen it on a certain YouTube channel. It looks really good.
It's very good. You have to go early in the morning though, because at the top there is a zip line and a few bits to do.
Okay,
But if you set off early in the morning, let's say 5 a.m. and you get at the bottom of the mountain for 6, you'll have an empty road. There's no cars.
Wow.
And it's extremely fun. And the house at the top is owned by one of the sheikhs.
Okay.
So really, you're driving up his driveway.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic piece of tarmac. Oh my!
Because it's 2 lanes wide.
So going up,
Is it like a motor?
no, going up is 1 lane wide. Going down is 2 lanes.
Right.
And then you have Jebel Hafit, which is another mountain road. Which again, there's a hotel like towards the end of it, and
We need to go out there and do that.
it's unbelievable.
Let's get out to Dubai.
Yeah, you need to.
'Cause even the police in Dubai have supercars, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they will make anyone's personal collection look boring. Everything from your G-Wagon, your Patrols. They have an SLS. They have an i8. They have
Lamborghinis.
Do you think that's
Yeah.
like a marketing tourism thing?
Yes,
More than
absolutely.
anything, yeah.
Because they can then go to these events and shows and be there in a capacity to say, look, we want to be involved. They do the track days. They go on track days with these supercar clubs. And they'll,
in a police car.
yeah, in the police car. They'll turn up in the R8 police car and they'll do laps. And they'll take other people out in their car. And this is the hospitality of the police there. Everyone has that mutual respect. That's why it's such a safe place as well.
There's like no crime in Dubai, right?
There is, but a lot of it's normally tourists.
Yeah.
If you live there, why would you?
Yeah.
Because you commit a crime, you're going to get kicked out.
Yeah.
But don't. Again, it's that whole facade. There is crime. Of course, there is crime. But it's still extremely safe. And you see these crazy TikTok videos of I'm leaving my laptop, phone, wallet on the table in McDonald's in the middle of Dubai Mall and walk away for an hour. You'll come back, it's still there.
Wow.
You do that in Birmingham or London, that'll be gone within 3 minutes.
Did you leave your house keys in the door when you left?
I don't lock the
2 weeks.
I don't lock the door.
Oh, okay. What's your address, really?
In Dubai. But the same with the car. When it's 50 degrees outside, if you're nipping into a coffee shop or a supermarket, you'll leave the key in the car with the car running.
Yep.
Knowing full well when you walk out, the aircon's still going in the car's still there.
Yeah.
And that's how safe it is. And that's how confident you become of where you live.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of going there. And that's one of the reasons why you move, because it is so safe.
Yep.
I came back to the UK last week, and a fortnight ago in Nottingham, you look at the news and you're sat there going, not sure I want to go home.
Yeah, we're both from Nottingham, so I totally get you.
Yeah.
Are you from Nottingham?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd speak like him if I was still living there.
Yeah.
In fact, my sister does speak a bit like she's the only one of the family who's got a real broad Nottingham accent.
I'll come back in another year, I'll probably start speaking Arabic to you.
Help me up.
Help me duck.
Help me up.
Before we finish up, because I can't believe it's actually almost been an hour.
I just looked at that as I went.
I want to ask you an obvious question. If you've got your John Cooper Works, now if you could have any other car, what would it be, Relini? Living out where you do, and why?
With your tax-free money.
Yeah, well, that doesn't actually matter because this car's just going to be yours.
I would probably go something local, like a Petrol, but an older one. Or they have these super safaris.
Yeah.
And all these guys do is they modify the chassis a little bit, put some crazy suspension on some massive wheels, let the tyres down and go in the desert.
The whole desert camp thing is, and going out, my mate lives, he just goes out and has barbecues in the desert.
They do it.
It's like massive out there, isn't it?
Yeah. And you can, as an expat, you can go and pay someone, they'll take you. And you can then go and have a full evening in the desert, food, they do everything. It's fantastic.
And is it, because Ped and I were in Saudi in January, one thing that stood out, something that needs to be fixed and improved on, especially if they want to get the tourism that they're aiming for, is the rubbish. As soon as you go out of the city,
Well, it's everywhere.
it is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the rubbish. I've never seen so much rubbish and garbage everywhere.
I mean, we were in the middle of the desert on a stage of the Dakar, and it was just crap.
Every square inch there was a bit of rubbish. And
Saudi Arabia at the moment is quite bad for it, but they are spending a fortune.
yeah, to try and improve it.
Yeah, billions. And you have it in the UAE as well. There are a lot of, I don't know whether it's when you can pinpoint it on locals, people living there, expats or tourists.
Yeah.
There are groups that go out on the beaches into the desert and actually pick up all the rubbish on their days off, because there are a lot of people that have spare time.
But are people, what's the mindset out there? Because I can imagine it's more like it's just been like that forever, and they set up a barbecue and then just leave all the rubbish and wander off, and it's, it'll get caught, it will get covered by the sand or whatever. Are people a bit more savvy with that now?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think because you can quite easily be watched and monitored in those countries in the Gulf region.
Yeah.
If any of that is caught, it's punishable.
Sure.
And they will punish you for something very, very small.
Yeah.
Because you're in their homeland.
Yeah.
Why would you have the disrespect of going there and littering?
Yeah.
Even just throwing your chewing gum on the floor.
Yeah.
They'll put you in prison for it. Something really minor.
Yeah.
And it will slap you a massive fine, 2,000 dirham or something like
To be
that.
fair, it should do that over here. Fly tipping.
But unfortunately in the UK,
10 years in prison for fly tipping.
Yeah,
That's
flight.
something,
Yeah. Or people that, I see it still way too regularly, and I'm not just stereotyping white van drivers, but it is white van drivers. And I know I was a white driver. No,
I mean, you're not going to see someone in their M3 touring, filling the boot up and chucking it all out the car.
No, I'm not talking about.
That's out at night time. So
I'm not even talking about flight tip. I'm talking about people that go around and chuck their McDonald's bags out the window while they're driving along, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, how? Nothing frustrates me more than that. I think that's so. It boils my blood when you see people doing that, even if it's a crisp anything.
fag butts. It might
yeah,
have been.
yeah.
Since when was that not litter?
Well, and smokers don't think it is today. A lot of smokers are like, oh no, that's not littering. What kind of is? But yeah. Anyway, we digress.
So we've done smokers. What?
Yeah.
Others? Anybody else that we can?
Anyone else left watching or listening to this?
Keep that for another podcast.
Oh, we've done all car sales people that.
Oh yeah,
Just tell us
all
that-
those. Yeah. Oh yes, yeah.
EV owners.
Oh, EV owners, yeah.
AV owners, yeah. Well, listen. I think we should wrap this. I'd love to say a big thanks to Relini for coming on. It was a bit last minute, and I'm glad that you took the opportunity in, and it's awesome to have you on, mate. And I know we've known each other now for close to 10 years, and we've been very good friends for that. And it's been awesome. How can people find you on your socials if they're interested in? Because I know you do post a fair amount.
Just my Instagram. So at Relini.
Relini.
Double L.
And what is your actual name?
Andrea Relini.
Andrea Relini. See, not many people, well, even in our circle, we all just know you as Relini.
Relini. Yeah.
Because
of the Instagram handle. Well,
Yeah.
It's just my surname.
and it's a cool surname. I mean, not quite Achilles, but it's right up there.
But some of us have to have boring surnames.
Oh yeah, that's definitely not boring. So yeah, I reckon it's been a pretty sick episode.
Yeah, that was wicked.
Yeah.
I'm well stoked.
Oh yes.
No one says that anymore.
Oh,
Well,
I don't think so.
Rad. Mint.
No.
Mint. That was mint. Yeah, that was mint. Yeah, that's the last thing I'm thinking. Yeah, well, mint.
that was bad.
That
That was
was
bad.
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 Oh, you
Let's
say that. That's
stop.
rude.
Bad is
Stop.
good. Yes, just yeah.
But thank you for having me.
Our pleasure, man.
That's my first podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not your last.
Hopefully not.
Anyway. Easy now.
Easing out.
Easy now.